The moon was full and shining bright, and there I was in the heat of the night. I found this place I'd like to go, even though it's far from home. It all made sense as I watched the crowd, the things I heard. This place was wild. The lights were low, people everywhere, sounds of love screaming through the air. It was there I fell in love. It was there I found my passion flowing, and far from my mind was the world I left behind. I used to think how it would be to find someone who needed me, and it was there my dream came true, 'cause it was there that I met you.
Hello and welcome back to Memories of the Musician. Thanks for joining in this evening. We have another great program for you tonight, featuring a longtime friend and a very talented vocalist, amongst other talents as a writer and so forth, in Lisa Ferraro. And Lisa is going to be with us in a few minutes, but before I bring her on to the program, I'd like to tell you a little bit about how I met Lisa. And this goes back to, I'm going to say, the early 80s, if not 1980. Could have even been 79. I'm not really 100% sure. This picture here, and if you watched the program that we did with Judy Fiegel, I showed the same picture because Judy Fiegel's also in this picture. Now, Lisa Ferraro is standing next to me. I have the yellow shirt and black pants on, and Lisa's on my right. As you look at the photo, she's on the left with, I guess, rose-colored slacks. And that's Lisa. And next to Lisa, on the other side of her, is John Orsini, who was in my band at that time. And then next to John is Judy Fiegel, and next to Judy is the late Robert Graham, Bob Graham, who was a music teacher with me, and he was also the music director for the Vogues, and he was also, a really good arranger and player. Who passed away way too young. Next to me on the other side is Kathy Hawk, who was a student of mine, and then Ernie Pontier. Ernie was the first guest on the first podcast that I aired on January 15th, 2025. And next to Ernie is a young lady named Debbie DeMola, who I've lost contact with, and I don't know where Debbie is or if she's still singing, but she was a wonderful singer as well. So this group was called the Southside Review, and we formed the group to sing jazz, like kind of a jazz vocal group. We had a quartet, piano, bass, drums, guitar backing us up. And then we performed at the Three Rivers Regatta in one particular year, 1980, 81, whatever it was. So this is where I met Lisa through Ernie, and she became part of this group. Unfortunately, I think this was a one-hit wonder. I think that was the only actual gig we did. We tried to get some other things, but it never kind of panned out. And then after that, I kind of lost track of Lisa. I know that she had moved to the West Coast at one point, and then moved back this way now, but not in Pittsburgh. She's, I believe, in Columbus, Ohio. So we're going to get to hear the musical journey of Lisa Ferraro here in a moment. So I want to play a video for you, and the video is really going to give you a sense of what a lot of things that Lisa has done. And you're going to hear a song. We're going to make this Christmas in June. And she had a couple of Christmas albums, and this is from one of the Christmas albums, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. So she's going to be singing it. And as that music goes by, you're going to see a lot of different photos. And when she comes on, if there's, she might want to comment about any of the photos there. So let's watch this video together. Lisa Ferraro.
I just came back from a lovely trip along the Milky Way. I stopped off at the North Pole, spent the holiday. I called on dear old Santa Claus to see what I could see. He took me to his workshop and he told his plans to me. So you better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, I am telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. Well, he's making a list, checking it twice, and he's gonna find out who's been naughty and nice. Santa Claus is coming to town. He sees you when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Well, you better watch out, you better not cry, you better not fight, I am telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. Here comes. You when you're sleeping, and he knows when you are awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Well, you better watch out, you better not cry, you better not cry, I am telling you why. Santa Claus is coming, Santa Claus is coming, Santa Claus is coming to town. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And there you have it. Lisa Ferraro. What a great arrangement and a great voice, a great interpretation of the song. Wonderful. So I am going to read a little bit of background. Got the specs on here so I can read. Lisa Yvonne Ferraro is a talented spiritual and jazz singer, songwriter, and inspirational speaker. Her dynamic voice and heartfelt performances capture audiences around the world. With a career centered on spiritual music, jazz, blues, soul, and classical American standards, Lisa has shared the stage with legendary musicians and gained recognition for her soulful interpretations and artistry. Lisa started her professional singing career at just 8 years old with Italian and Russian dance groups, and as a cantor in the Catholic Church, performing at weddings and funerals. By the age of 17, she was singing in clubs. Over the years, she has performed in rock, soul, and big band jazz ensembles. Notably, she formed an intimate duo with vocalist guitarist Erica Luckett, where they explored creative songwriting and captivating performances. Since her 1998 debut, Balance, Lisa has released 10 studio albums. Her transition into jazz standards is well represented in LYF Standards and Timeless 2002-2003, which highlights her warm, expressive phrasing. Her latest album, Serenading the Moon, features renowned jazz veterans like Houston Person and Lewis Nash. It showcases deep lyricism that has received praise, including spots on Billboard's jazz listings. As a skilled composer, Lisa has written for ABC's Wife Swap, Polygram Films, PBS, The Other Side of the River, and the Roberto Clemente Foundation. She was even commissioned by the Pittsburgh Pirates to create and perform More Than a Man, a tribute to Roberto Clemente. A key part of her work is the mystical poetry of Rumi. She co-created On the Way of Love, songs inspired by Rumi, which she performed at the Parliament of the World's Religions in Melbourne in 2009. Lisa's voice spans over 4.5 octaves and is both soulful and powerful. She describes her performances as co-creative, where each show becomes a unique dialogue between her heart and the audience. As the founder and director of Soul Call, she blends music, poetry, and healing into immersive experiences. She acts as music director at significant spiritual and creative conferences across North America, infusing her musical direction with a sense of connection to both heart and soul. In summary, Lisa Yvonne Ferraro is not just a jazz singer. She is also a composer, collaborator, spiritual leader, and creative force combining soul, poetry, and inspiration into every note. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring on to the program Miss Lisa Ferraro. There she is. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Vito. Thank you for that montage and that introduction. It's wonderful to be with you.
You're quite welcome, and it's quite deserving.
Thank you. I've been enjoying all of these, by the way. What you're doing, bringing memories of a musician forth. What a labor of love. And I've been appreciating learning more about my colleagues, people I've known for a long time. It's really great that you're doing this. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm having fun, and it's it's a little bit of work preparing for these to do it right, and that's what I want to do. But it's fun, and it's doing something constructive with my time.
It's always a good thing for a musician to find something constructive to do.
That's right.
Right.
For sure. So Lisa, I want to ask you, when did you begin studying music, and what was your first instrument? And what was your inspiration to start a musical instrument?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, I was always able to hear music in my head from my dawn of conscious memory, as they call it. Like the very first thing I remember was hearing music. So I was singing. That's part of the 4.5 octave or more range. I didn't know high or low. I just was trying to bring forth from my being that which I was hearing. And so you couldn't get me to stop humming or singing. You could ask anyone in my family. Like even when I'd ask my dad for $5 to go to the movies, I'd be humming, and he'd say, "Don't sing when you ask for money," things like that. But that was the beginning. And then at age 8, I started to take guitar lessons from one of the nuns at the church.
Okay.
And if you need a down, down, up, up, down strum, I'm your person. That's kind of, while everybody else was learning House of the Rising Sun, I was learning, Hear, O Lord, the sound. I was singing God songs. So it put me on a different trajectory, to say the least. But then in elementary school, in 4th grade, you take that ear test to see if you can get into the band program. And I thought, might not be math or science for me, but I know I'm going to ace this test. I couldn't wait to take this test and got into the band. And for what little I knew, I wanted to play the trumpet because I liked the instrument, but it only had 3 valves. So I thought, how hard could that be? I had no idea how to play a trumpet, and took to it and realized it's all about the lip and the breath. And so it was a lot about like singing, because it was breath control and all of that. And I told you the story. The funniest part of this story is I never practiced at home. And so my parents were reluctant to continue to pay for this trumpet because it was irritating them that, like, we're spending money on this thing. You can't be very good. Nobody hears you play. I'm like, but I'm first chair. In 5th grade, whatever that means, as a 5th grader, I was first chair trumpet. And finally they'd had enough, and they just said, you got to take it back. And if you're not going to practice. So I brought the horn back to Mr. Coulter back then, beautiful man, and music teacher in 5th grade. And I brought it back to the band room, and through tears, I'm handing him this trumpet, and he said, "Why?" And I said, "Because they don't think I can play." And he's like, "You're the best musician in the band right now. How's this going to happen?" So he said, if it's about them not seeing you practice and pay for the horn, I've got a French horn. If they're not paying for it and it's not going to upset anyone, would you like to switch to the French horn? It's much more interesting. And so that's, long story short, I ended up playing the French horn and loved it. Talk about opening my ears in a whole different understanding. And so my parents were happy about that. Everybody was happy. All's well that ends well. And I played French horn all through school.
That's a great instrument, yeah. And one of my guests, Matt Litterini, was on the show not too long ago. He's a really great French horn player. Yeah. It's a great instrument. It really is.
It's a great, I used to, because I could always hear music, I would hear arrangements of all different kinds of like orchestrations in my head. And when we would get our parts in symphonic band, of course, I studied with the great Joe Peakey at Montour High School. What a rich tradition there. And I didn't think, there were 200 and some kids in the symphony band, in the symphony orchestra, lots of people. Yeah. So I didn't really think he could even hear what I was doing individually, as long as the section was doing all right. If I didn't like my part, I would just make one up. And they would always cut the band, and he'd swear at us often. He said, "Ferraro, what are you doing?" And I said, "Didn't that sound great?" And he'd be like, "No, it sounds terrible. Play what's on the paper, I'm like, how could he hear me? He's like, "You play loud." I'm like, "Okay."
That's funny. That's a good story. I like that.
Hilarious story.
Yeah. And I want to show this this photo here. I like this photo. And you're in the recording studio, and you could see the passion. And so one of the questions I like to ask is, when did studying music is one thing, but when it becomes your passion, and that you want to be around it all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be your life. It's going to be your lifestyle, music, period. End of discussion. So when was this, and when did music really become your passion?
I think it's always been my passion. I feel like it, there's a saying, Joe Williams said it at an address to the graduating class of Berkeley one year. He said, you always have to remember, you didn't choose music, music chose you. And I think that's how I've always felt about music. I felt like it was the thing that brought me closest to the thing that created me in the first place, whatever that infinite thing is. Mm-hmm. And I always felt my voice, I was supposed to sing itself back to itself. Like whatever I sing, I should be offering back to that through the souls of myself and others. And it's been a deeply spiritual thing, no matter what I sing. And this image right here, this is great. This is from 2003 in George Hyde's studio in Aspinwall. George Hyde was.
I know the studio. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the recording of Timeless. And yeah, I was singing it there.
Neat. It looks like you have a fake book in front of you.
I don't know what's on that fake book.
Yeah,
but it might be I Remember You, or
this looks like it,
Totally.
But, and yeah, that studio, I mean, in Aspinwall, that was a former church, and that was the space, right? And he turned it into a recording studio. I did some recording there with another former guest that I had a while back, Jim Guerra. He recorded some of his original jazz music there, with a band, and it was a lot of fun. But I remember that studio.
This session is, Max Leak, Roger Humphreys, Dwayne Dolphin, Joe Negri. It was an incredible experience. That was really a lot of fun.
We got a lot of great musicians you just mentioned. So I want to show you a picture here. I actually used this photo in that montage that we watched. And this is obviously you're in Turkey, right? Because there's a Turkish instrument here. Mm-hmm. And tell us about that going to Turkey to perform and what that was all about. Yeah.
So this was part of the collaboration with Eddie Galuckett. We put music to the poetry of 13th century mystic poet Rumi, who's the most widely read poet in the West right now. And he writes ecstatic poetry to the infinite. I mean, and so the lyrics are just so rich. And this instrument, the ney, go back to like 1993, actually 1990, I started a meditation practice, and one of the gentlemen in the meditation group was from Turkey. And we were doing a 6-hour Christmas meditation one year, my first. And it is hard. Talk about discipline. Whoa, to just sit and be quiet. I mean, you put a quarter in me, I'll just keep talking. But being silent for 6 hours. So what he did was the second half of the meditation, he had this feeling that I would appreciate this instrument. And he played the Sufi ney. And I just started sobbing. It was the most beautiful. The way you even hold the instrument, it lays across your heart. And it's all about breath.
Wow.
Breath, breath, breath. So this gentleman here was a master neyzen. His name was Ali Effendi. And the look on my face, he's giving me my first ney lesson. And this is the most difficult instrument in the world to play. Many people can't even get a sound out of it.
Wow.
When I picked it up, I just was able to play it. And everybody turned around. We were in Dervish Brothers music store in Konya, Turkey, Central. And they were all looking at the Sheikh Kabir, who was with us. And they're like, how does she know how to play this? I didn't know she could. So I bought this little kizney, and he's given me my first lesson. Now, this is 2 years after my father passed away. And my father was from Italy. And his favorite song was Santa Lucia.
Right. Huh.
He picks up this, and he gets this little look, and he said, I'm going to play something very special for you. And he starts playing Santa Lucia on that day.
Goodness.
And I'm like, that's, of course, all these mystical things happen like that.
Yeah.
So that's what was going on there.
There's no reed on that instrument, right? Like you would have on a clarinet or an oboe or anything like that.
No.
It's like a flute where you just blow the air into it.
Right. Yeah. And this has a plastic sphere on the top of it.
Uh-huh.
And you just rest, and you just kind of, it's almost like breathing, like singing that gently, or else you can't get a sound out of it.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, the other interesting thing about Turkish music and instruments like this is, between, in Indian music, the ragas, there's like quarter tones. They've got, between our whole step, there are 9 other notes. So you get all these rich overtones. It just takes you right out. I mean, It's really meditative. It's incredible. I learned so much on that trip.
That's awesome. Yeah. I actually had the experience of performing in Istanbul myself with an artist I was on tour with. And we hooked up with an artist from Turkey. His name was Ferhat Göçer. He was kind of like the Billy Joel of Turkey.
Yep.
And he was actually a doctor, but he had a nightclub, and he did a lot of singing. And we used his band, and there were a lot of Turkish instruments. I don't remember the ney being one of them, but the rhythm instruments, the drums and the guitars and whatever they were all like Turkish style instruments, And
yes.
Very interesting.
Yes. So cool.
Great experience to experience other cultures and their music and their food and all their art and all the, it's very, the language, it's all very interesting.
It truly is. It's what brings us, that universal language. We recorded with some Sufi musicians who are on the Way of Love recording. And, we land in Turkey. It's after like a 14-hour flight or something like this. And it's, Erika she went right to the bazaar, and I went right to the bed. Like, I was exhausted. And a couple of hours later, she came in with coffee, like, we've got to go meet the sheikh. And next thing you know, we're crossing the Bosphorus on a ferry to go to the Asian side. You and I are talking about this, of Istanbul, into the studio, and recorded probably 7 hours with Turkish musicians. They knew a few words, and we knew, thank you, teşekkür ederim, you and I are talking about. And all we knew how to say was "Çok güzel."
Merhaba.
Merhaba, yeah, how are you? "Çok güzel," like so beautiful. That's all we knew how to say to one another. But the music, just, it's its own language, and it's universal, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
That was a cool
That's
experience.
wonderful. Great experience. Thanks for sharing all that. That's wonderful. And now, you mentioned this guy before that you recorded. He was in the session with you at George Hyde Studio.
Hey.
the
Joe Nag-
legendary Joe Negri, and I think he just had a birthday recently.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he's 99. Is that right?
yeah, I think so. He's 99. That's I think that's accurate. This is a great picture with you and Joe. And
Weird.
when would this have been?
This was also 2003. We recorded a song together, just guitar and vocals, called Cry Me a River. And really interesting about the day we recorded this. So we're at George Hyde's studio, and the day of this recording is the same day that Fred Rogers passed away.
Oh my!
Early in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And so Joe had been doing, interviews most of that day, and he came to the studio, and they had somebody else was coming, and he had to do a little interview, and then we got right in, and I said, I called him on the phone. Are you sure you want to do this? And he goes, it'll be the most normal thing I do all day. I'm like, and I understood that. That made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And so we recorded the song that day. I'll remember this always.
He had to be on Mr. Rogers from pretty much from the beginning of that show. And I don't know the very beginning, but it very well could have been. And I would like to know that. And then all the way through, I know, till the show ended,
Yeah. Handyman Negri.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Beautiful human. What a great guy.
Yeah, he is. And I got to actually know Joe pretty well too. And believe it or not, I took a guitar class at Duquesne University.
Oh.
It was part of an educational thing that, to be able to have our teachers in the music in the school system teach guitar at the middle school level. But anyhow, I took this class, and he came in, and he knew me from my band. And of course, being Italian, so he started, hey, I'm going to play something for Vito. And he played a solo mio on the guitar. It was fun.
Great.
We had a good time. But great guy. And I can't say that I ever worked with him or played a gig with him, which I wish I could have or would have. But I at least had the honor of knowing him,
Yeah, that's a plus.
Now, you collaborated a good bit with a gal named Erica Luckett. And tell me a little bit about how you met her and your collaboration with her.
Yeah, this probably the most extraordinary collaborative experience, as it was just so layered. We met in 2006 at a music festival in Illinois, and I was doing a jazz set with a fabulous jazz pianist named Julie Bonk, who had a record contract at one time with CBS Records. Remember that? Remember CBS Records? Long time ago. And we toured quite extensively at that time. She was stationed located in Dallas, and I was still living in Pittsburgh. Okay. And we did our set, and then the following night we were watching other artists perform, and here comes Erika out with a guitar, and I thought, oh, this should be interesting. I'd never seen anybody play a guitar, and it never sounded like her guitar sounded. And she was, she had it lowered from an E open tuning to D and alternative tunings, and just very percussive, but melodic and interesting, not just, acrobatic, like you see a lot of people tapping and banging, and it's great. But there was just something so marvelous about this sound. I'd never heard anything like it. And so Julie noticed it too, obviously. And we ran into her at the end, waited for her to sign autographs and all that kind of stuff, and said, if we get a chance to run into each other again, let's find a piano and jam a little bit. Let's see what happens. We ended up being able to do that. And there was this curious way our voices came together that we both recognized after harmonizing with people for decades. There was something else that was just different. And so I was music directing a conference in Miami, and she was born in Mexico and raised in Venezuela and Brazil. So she had that whole, she had mastery of that. Yep. And I invited her to Miami so we could have the flavor of that culture added into what we were doing. And we got to spend a little more time together and just tried to collaborate as often as we could. And that just kind of created a world and a life of its own. And we stepped in and started to collaborate more.
Nice. I have this photo here.
Yeah.
The two of you there.
Yeah.
And it's a great photo. When was this photo?
This was also probably 2009. This is around the same time we were in Turkey. We started to just work exclusively together, and I was still doing my own jazz thing, and she would do some of her own things too. But we released a recording called Awe, AWE, and we had a couple of original songs on there, and then some reharmonized representations of some classic jazz standards with guitar and vocal. And she had a way of, like, the way she would reharmonize these chords. We both were little mad scientists of sound, and this is kind of where we resonated, like trying to create openings with the shapes, using like sacred geometry, where if we layer a harmony in a certain way, it lifts the human spirit, and you can actually get out for a minute and feel that elevated state of consciousness, which we can get to, that connects you, you know, that with something divine, something divine. And may it bring a little more peace when you back engaged in whatever it is you're doing, with more of an openness and of knowing that you're not alone. And so she was just like I was with that. And she was a film scoring and composition major from Berkeley.
Okay.
So she really was way more skilled in writing things way faster than I could. But whatever we collaborated on, it was rich. It was really deep and meaningful.
Well, I have a video of it's basically a clip of two different songs of you, the two of you, and it's just guitar, her playing, and you two singing. Sometimes solo, sometimes in a duet form, you know. So
okay.
let me play this video, and afterwards you might want to comment on it.
Okay.
All the leaves are brown and the sky is gray. I've been for a walk on a winter's day. I'd be safe and warm if I was by the bay. California dreaming on such a winter's day. I stopped into a church I passed along the way. I got down on my knees and returned to pray. The preacher likes the cold. She knows I'm gonna stay. California dreaming on such a winter's day. Tell me what you gonna do for me. Have a big K-I-N-G. Tell me what you gonna do for me. I'll show you kindness. Say what I'm gonna do for you. I will make K-I-N-D too. Tell you what I'm gonna do for you. Show you kindness. Some say that the world is divided into weak and strong. There's good and bad and right and wrong. Don't trust the ones who sit on fences. They're either with us or against us. I believe in kindness, 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 kindness.
There you go.
Oh my
Wow.
God. I hope you enjoyed my postmodern intergalactic tunic in that.
That's great.
Oh my gosh. That was so much fun. That collaboration was astounding to me, really. Those California Dreamin', I changed the lyrics, obviously, to some of that. I was living in the Bay Area then, and she just started with that riff, and I was homesick that day, believe it or not, like living in California, being homesick for Pittsburgh. That's what I was like. I had just, I'm just teasing, just being like away from the people and the things. It was still fairly new, and I was finding my way around out there. And it was just a really melancholy kind of vibe, but the way she played it and the things we did with it were just, that was really fun to sing.
How many years did you spend in California, Lisa?
I think 7
Okay.
or 8. Yeah. Not
And
terribly.
then you moved back east to Columbus, Ohio. Is that where you are now?
I'm in Columbus, Ohio now. We moved here to do an artist residency as a stepping off point to open a retreat center. It's what I really wanted to do for creative and performing arts and meditation. And so moved from the Bay Area to a place where we'd be able to buy a place and make that happen. And as it turns out, I do run an event and retreat space in Columbus, Ohio. It didn't have to buy it. It just kind of, long story, but that's what I'm doing here and touring and singing. And
Nice.
yeah, the general manager and curator of events at the Dempsey.
Nice.
So
Nice. So, okay. So let's, that's a wonderful collaboration you had with Erica. In 2003, you had a CD release of Timeless
right.
at James Street with Ken Karsh, Roger Humphreys, Brian Stahersky, and Max Leak. And also the Nightside Jazz DJ, the late Tony Mowad. I have a photo of the, let me get up here. I have a photo of this here, this release here.
Yeah. James Street Tavern. Okay, so this is how this story went. I was singing in, Pete Hewlett connected me with a guy named Nick Dialoso who had this agency with bands.
Sure.
And I started singing with dance bands with them. And that's where I met Kenny Karsh. He was the guitarist in the band I was singing with at the time. And as I started to do more of the jazz, just other performances around, I wanted to step out of that and get into bands where I was singing my own style, my own name, and all of that kind of stuff. I didn't want to just be. So Kenny at the time ran the jam session on Thursday nights at James Street.
Oh.
And this particular Thursday, my friend Liz is a music lover of all kinds, and she's always out listening to live music. And she said, it was the Thursday before Good Friday. So all the musicians, educators, everybody came to this jam session because nobody had to go to work in the morning. It was packed. This might be, I don't know, like 1999 or something like this, and maybe 2000. But Kenny's running the jam session. So we go in and somebody leaves and we jump on this booth, and he sees me and he comes over to me on a break and he said, hey, and I wasn't a jazz singer then. I mean, I didn't consider myself one. You don't call yourself a jazz singer when you come from a place like Pittsburgh with such a rich tradition. They have to tell you are or not. You don't just say, I'm a jazz singer. You know what I mean? I had a lot of respect for everyone in that. I still do, but I knew better than to just do that. And so I said, I can't sing at James Street. This is a jazz club. Like I don't even, and he's like, what are you talking about? I said, no. I just didn't know what I didn't know about everybody. And I just thought, no, I'm not doing it. And he said, okay, you don't have to. And I said, okay, great. And so my friend Liz starts, I enjoy red wine. And she starts giving me a glass of wine, another glass of wine. Next thing you know, Kenny gets back in to the jam. And next thing you know, he calls me up to come and sing. I'm like, oh no. And so I get up there and I sing Since I Fell for You. And the place went crazy. Like the whole place went nuts. And you would only on a jam session, you sing one song and you get out of there because everybody else is there. Thank you. I'm counting my blessings that went well. And thank God that's over. And he said over the microphone, "Would you like for her to sing one more?" And everybody's, yes, like from the whole place. Like, oh. And so we sang the Brenda Russell song. Alita Adams covered it, "Get Here," because he knew that. The rest of the band knew that. And the same thing happened. The place went crazy. And so I got to step away. I go back to the booth and I'm like, oh my goodness. So out of the back where the kitchen is, the door swings open and out walks a gentleman I didn't know yet, but met him that night, Craig Poole, who was the manager of James Street at the time. And he's got his date book in his hand.
Oh,
and he
geez.
sits himself down in the booth and he says, that was amazing. You know, some really nice compliment. And I said, thank you very much. And he said, where are you from? I said, I'm from Pittsburgh. And he said, yeah, no, you're not. I know every singer in the city. I don't know you. And I said, I live in Pittsburgh. And he said, all right, enough of that. I want you to be here at least one Friday a month for the rest of the year. I'm going to give you some dates. Check them out and then call me. And that's how that all started.
Okay.
So
That's a great story. Wow. And is this the same night with Tony?
That's the same night. So I started singing there and I started to become more well-known in that jazz thing. So Life Standard, LYF Standards was the first we did CD release. And this was the CD release of Timeless and downstairs at James Street. And Tony Mowad was also, he started hearing about me and he started to come out and we had lunch one afternoon downtown at the Brugger's down there. And he just wanted to know, where have you been? You know? And I said, well, I did have a music scholarship at Duquesne, but I quit because I started singing and, you know, all these different things. And which my dear friend, Ernie Pontier, who introduced me to you way back when,
That's right.
He also taught me the Bach Gounod version of Ave Maria, which made me a bit of a standout because I had Schubert and the Bach Gounod. So I asked the question, which would you like to hear? There's so many, but yeah. And so where was I going with that?
Well, let me interrupt you because I spoke with Ernie yesterday. You know, he was in my band for over 20 years and we're still very close friends. And he was the first guest on this podcast in January of 2025. And I was just speaking with him yesterday. He couldn't wait. He said, I can't wait to see Lisa, you know, in her show on your podcast. And he said, here's what he said. He said, Lisa was the best kept secret in Pittsburgh. That's what he said.
He's so sweet.
So somehow you were able to hide behind the bushes a little bit, but as soon as you peeked out, boy, and the whole crowd knew it, huh?
It did. That was a cool thing. Like I knew what the Ave Maria was about. That's how I got into school on a voice scholarship, was that song. And wow. I remember Annette Lucenti played for me. That's the thing I like about Pittsburgh, I have to say, is if you've got the thing, the way musicians mentor one another there is really special. Like if they take you under your wing, like the great Sandy Staley, you know, and Max Leake and Roger, if they not just like you, but if you have the thing, they'll make sure you can keep it going and they'll give you the parameters like that's art, that's not, you know, like in the jazz world.
Sure, and to show you the way, right? Yeah.
So lots of people to thank for the success of that. And Tony Mowad was certainly one of them when he realized I actually was a musician and not just, as he called it, like a street singer, which whatever that is music. But he wanted to know that I understood it. So we had conversations about things. But he started to play my music often. And he would invite me onto the show if there was a new release of something. And I still remember he was at WDUQ down there on the hill at Duquesne University. But it was nightside jazz. He would pull into the parking lot at 11 o'clock at night and call up and let him know you're in the studio. I could still hear his voice. It's like, DUQ. That's how he'd answer the phone. And I say, you know, Tony, it's Lisa. Oh, Lisa, come on up, you know. But those were great memories and great times. And he certainly really helped to get things going. Invited me to the Jazz Society. We did the CD release for the Pittsburgh Jazz Society then. That was the Sunday night.
He was integral in really pushing jazz in Pittsburgh, you know, in general. I mean, he really was, and did a lot for that genre of music. So a lot of great musicians, you know, were able to take advantage of his great.
Something funny. You wrote the Beyond Lincoln Mercury jingle. I remember coming over to your house in West Mifflin, singing that down and trying to.
Well, that was a lot of years ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. But
That's
then
right.
Max Leak, Tony connected us with somebody from one of the Rorick Cadillac.
Okay.
And I sang the Rorick Cadillac jingle for a while.
Oh, wow.
And the Eaton Park jingle in Pittsburgh too. It was funny, those jingles and those times with Tony and like everybody around.
That was a big deal back then. You know, there were a lot. That was a big thing back then for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So let me ask you about your recording. This is part of your recording career. We've talked a little bit about different aspects of it, but I want to show, because I played that montage and it, of course, had that Christmas song, Jazz Up the Holidays. And this here is volume 2. So you had 2 volumes of this Christmas album, Jazz Up the Holidays.
Yeah.
In volume 2, and then volume 1. This was released in 2017, according to my records here. And volume 1 was released in 2004. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Both were recorded at the Manchester Craftsmen's Guild in Pittsburgh.
In front of a live audience, you know. So we had Mike Tamaro, when I was doing the private parties and things, super high-end gigs. Mike Tamaro came back to Pittsburgh, and that's when he started his tenure at Duquesne University, director of jazz studies. But he would play on these events sometime, but he did a lot of the arrangements for the horn, like 3-horn arrangements. And I got to know him. What a lovely man. And as I started to sing more, people would say, you need to sing this, you need to sing that. And that's how I would choose the songs for my next recording. It's like the ones people want to hear. Yeah. And so finally it gets to when are you going to do a holiday CD? And I was like, really? I mean, everybody has but you don't. All the fans were like, you don't, you have to do one. And so I called Mike and I said, let's talk about this. And he was very enthusiastic. And so I remember sitting around his dining room table, we were sipping coffee. And I said, I have to tell you something though, that I really love Christmas music. I really do love it. And he said, so do I. And I was like, great. So we sat there and decided which songs we were going to put on the first recording and how we were going to do them, styles and things. And the one you played, Vito, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, that won an International Independent Music Award in that genre. Somebody submitted it. I didn't even know.
Wow.
And
that's great.
Thank you. And it was very fun. And so we performed that concert, Jazz Up the Holidays, in conjunction with a particular nonprofit, different ones throughout the 20 years that we did it, 20 years in a row. So as we kept performing it, we kept adding new songs so that we could have a different choice. So when we had enough to complete a second recording, we thought, let's just go do that, Jazz Up the Holidays too, in 2017. Last year was the 21st year that I didn't do it. But it's going to come back again this year. It's already December 3rd in Columbus. And I want to have a little like choir of sorts just to bring some people together. So I'll do the bulk of it, but we'll have maybe a choir add a little bit. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's always fun. When I was the music director for the Sicilian Tenors, and we would do Christmas concerts, we would always secure either a high school or college choir for the concert, and we would give them a moment to do a couple of songs and maybe the second half of the show, and then we would always end with like a big medley of Christmas, so with the choir and the tenors.
Awesome.
And like always a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's just that's what that music is about. It's like bringing people together, and it's so much fun. Those shows are so much fun.
Now, the song that I played, that was from Santa Claus is Coming to Town. That was from the Volume 2 album?
That was from Volume 1. The green cover, yeah. Okay,
now what about the song that I think that you wrote this, It Must Be Santa Claus?
Yeah.
Is that Volume 1 or 2?
That's Volume 2.
Okay.
And
so
go ahead.
Go ahead. You talk about, because I have a video where I used, I didn't play the whole song, but most of it. and I have some other photos that are going on in there, but this is an original song. So I think that's, we need to note that this is something you wrote the music and lyrics. So go ahead,
Yeah.
tell us.
I wrote the music and lyrics to this because it just kept coming to me. And I thought, okay, I need to just get this down. And I thought the hook must be Santa Claus. You know, the audience could sing with me because it's pretty straightforward. And so this is so funny because we recorded it live at Manchester Craftsman's Guild in 2017, and it's lightning fast. It's so fast. And I kind of like it like that, but it's just probably a hair over the cliff. But the energy of it is phenomenal. And so I didn't want to, years ago, I did a sing your song recording, and I brought Kenny Blake in. And like Houston Person too, like I'm the same way. I don't like to do things too many times because then it just gets in the circuitry of my smaller minded. I just might have the tendency to repeat or try to perfect instead of be present with what wants to happen. There's a difference between perfection and presence, and I would choose presence over. So I like live recordings for that reason. The energy, you can really capture that. So when we went back into the studio, most of what is on these recordings is live, but there were a few that were kind of egregious that needed to be tightened up here or there. But they wanted to re-record this one, and I said, no, I like it, flaws and all, because it's really what happened that day, and it's just so precious. Like everybody's enthusiasm is just frozen in time.
It's interesting you say that because my group, we three, I think we recorded 10 albums over the years, and then we recorded, I don't know the exact years, the 90s, 93 to 95 or 90 to 95. We had an ADAT machine and we took it with us on every gig, and we recorded the band live. And then my engineer, Ed Dukestein, and I went in the studio and we took the best of each song and put together a live recording. It was actually a double CD.
That's cool.
Yeah. And you know what? To this day, it's my favorite recording that we've done. And it's like you said, it's, there's a different energy when you're performing live. Yeah. And I don't know how to describe it, but it just makes you feel good. And it just it feels
great.
So
this audience crushed it. Yeah.
Can I play this video of that we have here with "It Must Be Santa Claus," written by Lisa Ferraro? Here we go.
Who's that sneaking around your rooftop late at night? Sleigh bells ring-a-ling, jing-ding-ding-a-ling, sound so bright, filling stockings while your dreams are filled with delight. Singing, scatting, belly laughing, spreading cheer, travels from the North Pole only once a year, whose pipes are warm and sled is hot, he's finally here. Must be Santa Claus. Santa shook and swinging when he's in the mood. Tip-tap-tapping, zip-tap-tapping to the groove. Span a faithful reindeer are blowing their horns. All the stills are super smoking. Santa's real and I'm not joking. All the dazzling presents underneath the tree. Among those bows and ribbons, something else I see. Is that you, dear Santa Claus? Why, yes, it's me. Must be Santa Claus.
That's great. I didn't play this, but there's some great solos. The trombone, I think trumpet, saxophone, piano. I mean, they were all great. I mean, really. And the flying, like the tempo is flying.
Oh,
it was
God.
wonderful.
One of the funniest things about that song is I didn't have part of the verse finished. As I was driving, I was living in Columbus at the time, and Eddie was with me, and we were driving from here to Pittsburgh, and I didn't have like part of it done, but it was on the schedule. Like we're playing it. I said to Mike, this is the melody and this is the half of the lyric, and just we're doing it. And I'm driving and I don't have it finished yet. But I'm one of these people who, when I like to drive, and it stimulates my creativity because it's kind of mindless to drive from here to there. It's just 3 hours easy. Not like driving in New York or Los Angeles or something like that. And that's when I finished it on the way.
That's funny. I've done the same thing. Believe me.
You just know it's there.
On a song, and then I kept the manuscript pad and a pencil. They talk about, texting. I remember driving to work in the morning and seeing girls putting makeup on in the car while they're driving. And if I did anything, I'd be writing music.
That's hilarious.
Finishing the song exactly like you said. That's true.
But I think there's a way that, because you can do that, and the reason I can do it is I know I'm conscious that I'm doing it, but it comes from someplace else. And as long as I can get out of the way, I know it's there. Like, I don't have that kind of pressure around it. Like, I don't have to do it. It'll be there when I'm ready, when it's ready. I don't worry like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's right.
So it just keeps it open-ended like that. I just trust that it's always been there and it'll always be there.
So you did a lot of gigs, and I assume this was in California with the Tammy Hall Trio. Yes. Yeah. And how did you meet? I actually have a picture too. Let's see. It's right here.
Yay, Tammy Hall.
You and Tammy. Where did you meet? How did you meet Tammy? And
this is another great story. So when I lived in Pittsburgh, there was a restaurant in Allison Park up there called Blue. And on Tuesdays, he started a thing called Diva Night. So every Tuesday at Blue, there would be a different female vocalist. Well, it comes up for the 1-year anniversary, and the owner, I'm singing this one night, and the owner comes over to me and he's like, I have a problem. I was like, what's the problem? And he's like, well, the 1-year anniversary is coming up. And I said, well, congratulations. He said, no, which diva do I book? And I said, well, that's easy. And he's like, oh, I should just book you. And I'm like, no, you should book all of us. Huh. And we could call it Diva Night, but it'll help everybody. It'll help, that's what he did. He booked all of us. He set us up in the back. We had food and drinks, but we all got to know each other because singers.
Sure.
So when I moved to the Bay Area, I thought, what a cool thing. And maybe we could do that again. And we passed the hat around and raised $1,000 for someone who was dealing with cancer or something like that. And I would meet them literally on the corner with a brown bag full of cash, just hand it to them and walk away. Do whatever you want with this. And so I thought, in the Bay Area, maybe we could do the similar thing. It was such a success. We did it all many different places in Pittsburgh. And I was led to an older woman who was 80 at that time, who was quite enamored with the idea. And she said, that'll never work here, honey. She's like, where are you from? I said, I'm from Pittsburgh. She goes, Pittsburgh, that might work. There's way too much competition for that to ever work in the Bay Area. And I said, maybe you're right, but I don't think so. If we could try it. And she goes, well, I'm not going to participate, but I'll give you the name of the pianist who plays for all the singers in town. It's Tammy Hall. Okay. So I called Tammy Hall on the phone and introduced. I was nervous because I thought, what do I think I'm doing? Little Pittsburgh coming to big city saying. And I told her how I got her name and what the idea was. And she's like, I think that's a fabulous idea. I'll give you everybody's name and I'll call them for you. And sure enough, we did Diva Night. And that's how I met Tammy.
And then I have this picture before I show you this.
Yeah. Houston person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Quite a legendary sax player there too.
So I met Houston person because through this Diva Night thing, I had given Tammy a couple of my CDs. So we started to work together and do things. And she had me on her iPod. She picked up Houston from the airport because they were going to do a performance in one of the places in the city. And as they're conversing, driving, my song comes on. I don't know which one it was, but he stops and he goes, wait a minute. Who is that? And she goes, that's my friend, Lisa Ferraro. And he goes, I need to meet her. I want to record with her. She goes, well, she lives here and she's probably come to the show tonight. So we went over to see her in the afternoon, and he comes walking down from the hotel stairs, and he was going to go down the street to get a new tie and handkerchief because he was always dressed, impeccably well. And so Tammy said, "Oh, this is this person, this is that person, and this is Lisa. She's." He goes, "I know who she is. You're that singer." And I said, "Yeah." And so that's how we met.
Wow.
And I think I told you this story. To get some bookings in the Bay Area, they were very into tribute shows.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
just didn't, after coming from dance bands and imitating people all my life, I really wasn't into imitating people anymore. But if that's what it was going to take, I said, well, then let's do a tribute show to Dakota Staten, because she's a great Pittsburgh singer and not known as well as she should have been in my thought. And so Tammy said, well, guess who produced some of her last recordings? Houston Person.
Oh, wow.
She gave me his phone number, and I called him on the phone, and I said, hey, let's step in on this thing. This might be a good way. And he goes, why are you doing a tribute show? And I said, well, because, and I explained it, and he's like, you got to do a tribute show to yourself. Like, don't you? I was like, all right, well, let's do half and half then. Let's Dakota. And he's like, okay, well, then that's how I'll do it. And so he came out, and we did the show live. And I think it was for both of us to get a sense of working together. Okay. And it just clicked. It was wonderful. And then we recorded Serenading the Moon as a result of that.
He's great. I mean, what's interesting is he just knows what to play and when to play it.
Yes.
There's no question about it. It's just, it's very natural. And I have one more picture too. This one.
Oh yeah.
That's her trio with Houston and with you.
Yes. Yeah. That was.
Go ahead.
That was the tribute to Dakota and myself show.
Okay. So, okay, great. So I do have one more video I'm going to show too, but before I show that, I wanted to know is there any other stories that you want to share with the audience before? Because we show this video, this is going to be the finale here. This is you singing "Teach Me Tonight," which is a great song.
Thanks.
And a lot of folks have sung this song, but this is a great performance, great arrangement. I love it. I love it.
Thanks, Chico. Coming from you, that means a lot. I mean, just thinking about just this show was so much fun to put together with you. And again, I thank you for doing this for us. What a really beautiful, humble thing to do, is feature so many amazing people. But going back through where you've been, it helps to remember where we're going. And it just, like tomorrow morning, I get to, like 3:45, I get picked up and driven to the airport to go perform with Tammy in California.
Well, and that's a good question that I should actually add to my list of questions. Is some of the folks that I've had on are kind of in the same position I am, where I'm not performing anymore, in large part because of health reasons. But I mean, it is what it is. I'm not performing, and I'm still doing a little bit of writing, and of course doing this podcast. A lot of folks are not, but some of the people that I have on are still, still have a career ahead of them. So a good question is, where are you heading from here? What's in your future?
I don't know exactly, but it feels like the best is yet to come. I feel like it's ever evolving, like the shifts and changes. Erika, losing Erika in 2018 was really tough to regroup. And then you and I talked about, pandemic shutting everything down.
Sure.
You get to kind of compost to a degree. There's not a whole lot of movement there, but like what comes forth from that is something beautiful. And I feel there are a couple recordings on the horizon. I don't want to say too much about those yet, because I don't really know how it's going to go, or which one's going to come first.
Sure.
However, I feel really enthusiastic about what's to come.
Good
I really
for you.
do. Thank you.
And in the immediate future, you're going back to California.
Yeah.
To play a show with Tammy.
Yes.
And
And do a speaking engagement there. So it's just a quick little turnaround. But yeah, I can't wait. We're going to have a really great time. It will be nice to play together again.
Well, I want to play this last video, and let's listen to you singing in this group. Actually, a lot of talented players there singing "Teach Me Tonight." Here we go.
The sky is a blackboard, high above you. If a shooting star goes by, I'll take that star and write I love you 1,000 times across the sky. Did you say I've got a lot to learn? Don't think I'm trying not to learn. Berkeley is the perfect spot to learn. Teach me tonight. Starting with the ABC of it, right down to the XYZ of it. Help me solve the sweet mystery of it. Come on and teach me tonight. The sky is a blackboard, high above you. If a shooting star goes by, I'll take that star and write I love you 1,000 times across the sky. But one thing isn't very clear, my love. Should the teacher stand so near my love? Graduation's almost here, my love. Come on and teach me tonight. Blackboard, high above you. If a shooting star goes by, I will take that star and write Should the teacher stand so very near to me, my love? Graduation's almost here, my love. Teach me to love. Graduation's almost here, my love. Come on and teach me to
Rock. That's awesome. That was energized right there.
Oh
That
my
was
God.
great. That was great.
Thank you.
Oh,
You know, it's so funny when it's like that. You see me laughing, giggling, like it just gets you right in the solar plexus when there's that kind of energy.
Yeah.
Like every time I hear Roger Humphries take a solo, I just start cracking up laughing. Like Houston Person was the same thing. I can't stop. It just, I don't know what to do with all of that. And then
Yeah.
fortunately, I get to sing it out. That was great. Very fun time.
that was really terrific.
Thank you.
Just all around, that whole band was great. All the players. I mean, that Houston Person, he's just unbelievable. That guy is just a really fine player, and everybody. It's just, and then to have your voice there, it's just remarkable.
Thanks, Vito. I appreciate that. You know, yeah, just singing in clubs from the time I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
Really, really fun. And it's just that energy. It just keeps going. Yeah.
Good for you. And I hope you continue to do it for a lot more, many years.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Stay in good health, and you can do it, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Lisa, it's been wonderful to have you on the program.
Thanks,
Thank
Vito.
you so
I appreciate it. It's been an honor.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Great to see you.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of happy people when they see this show with you. You know, it's just
Appreciate
so,
that.
well,
All right.
you have a great evening, and thanks again. We'll
You're
talk,
welcome.
Lisa.
Peace and
Okay,
blessings. Love to Lana too. Okay.
thank you. I will. Okay.
Bye-bye.
And there you have it, another episode of Memories of Musician with Lisa Ferraro. What a tap. Whew. It's got me choked up here. Yeah, it's awesome. And, you know, there's nothing like music is so good for the soul. Just in hearing a good performance of, you know, could be any genre. I mean, it's a good performance is a good performance, and you just can't minimize that. It's good for you. Looking ahead, next week, we have another friend of mine, and we're going to travel to Durban, South Africa, where a good friend and fellow musician lives and still continues to perform there as well. His name is Trevor Dongenet. And he played bass for me in the rhythm section when I was on tour in South Africa in 2007 with Patrizio Buone. Trevor and I had remained friends over the years, and I even published his original music. He writes a lot of music in the kind of like the old R&B style. He sings. He's got a wonderful voice. Plays bass, and he records all of his tracks when he does use tracks. Very, very talented musician. So, well, be sure to tune in next Wednesday. That's July 2nd at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another episode of Memories of a Musician featuring talented bassist, vocalist, and songwriter Trevor Dongenet. Thank you again for tuning in this evening, and you have a great evening. Thank you.